My family story starts back in 1920 when my grandfather made that difficult decision of immigrating from India to Malaysia. He did that to give his family a better life. My dad was born in 1940. His post-secondary education was in Australia at a university, and he studied business and accounting management. In 1976, Dad had to make a difficult decision of immigrating from Malaysia to Canada. He was told about Abbotsford, British Columbia, how it was a great city and a great country with lots of opportunity. So Dad immigrated out here. He did what anybody would normally do when they come to a new country. He's tried to find work. So he applied for well over 200 different applications. The ones that did respond to him said that he did not have any Canadian work experience and they could not provide him a job. Time was running out and so was money. So Dad reached out to a family friend and said, look, I'd like you to help me find a job, any type of job, it doesn't matter. I need to start working. That gentleman found my dad a job at a dairy farm. It was manual labor, nothing my dad had ever done. But anyways, he started the job. So every day he would go to that dairy farm and work hard in hopes that some other opportunity would come across his table. He applied for a job at a BC farm labor pool. He got the call back about the interview. So Dad did what he thought made sense and drove around to all the farms to take a look at what his job would entail if he got it. He was in Langley, he was in Maple Ridge, Surrey, Abbotsford. He drove around to all the farms to see what those needs might be. During the interview, he was asked if he had any work experience in that area, and Dad told him no, he did not. But he still answered all the questions. They were kind of astonished. If you don't have any work experience, how are you able to answer these questions? Dad explained to that gentleman that he went around to all the farms to find out what their needs and requirements would be. That same gentleman walked Dad out of the interview and said, you're probably one of the best applicants that we have, but unfortunately, I don't think you're going to get the job. And Dad asked why. And that gentleman told my dad, he's like, it's because of your turban. My dad used to wear a turban, also known as a dastar. The significance of that is the holiness, self-respect, and honor. Dad shook that gentleman's hand and appreciated his honesty. He went back to working at the dairy farm. A few weeks later, he got a call from that same gentleman saying, hey, I've got a position for you. It's not what we had before, but it's a bookkeeper. Would you like the position? Dad jumped at the opportunity and said, yes, I will take that job. He got his best suit and he started working there. In 1996, there were federal cutbacks and unfortunately Dad lost his job. Once again, he had to make a difficult decision on what he would do. We were all a young family. I was 11 years old, my brother was 10. That is when he decided he was going to start the Patrika, a bilingual newspaper. He was having a conversation with my mom that the South Asian community was growing in Abbotsford, but we needed to help build a bridge. So he decided the newspaper would be both in English and Punjabi, and let the community members know what's going on in and around their community and where they can go for help if they need it. The beginning of this, just like any business, was very difficult. It was extremely, extremely stressful. Dad lost about 40 or 50 pounds. He went for his annual checkup, and the doctor told my mom that he was a ticking time bomb and that if he wanted my dad around, that he needed to get him out of town for a vacation. So that's what we did. We went back to Malaysia. We took about a month off. Dad relaxed, came back, and the calls started ringing. Everybody wanted to advertise in the newspaper. He made that difficult decision then that he wanted to have a better future for everybody, for all of us. He told these stories to us many times, and I never really understood why we tell the story over and over. And then in 2004, we had to make a difficult decision. Our post-secondary education, were we going to stay in town or were we going to go abroad? My dad said to me that he suggested we go to India. We'd never been to India really before. 1997 we did. Our second visit to India was in 2004 to join university there. My brother and I joined MS Ramaiah Dental College. A dentist? That was what we picked at that time. I was actually pretty excited to go to a new country, meet with new people. I quickly realized that it wasn't going to be a piece of cake. I wasn't the most intelligent student. I was an average student. But because my grades were slightly lower, this was my chance to try to get ahead in life. When I arrived in Bangalore, there was such a shock, a cultural shock, a language barrier. We looked different. We walked different. We were just different. We got picked on. I had one professor tell me that I had to take my kada off. I explained to the professor that I couldn't take it off and that it had been on ever since I was a child. He said, you need to get it sanitized. So the next day, I put on a long shirt, I rolled it back, and I taped it as well. He said, no, that doesn't count. He kicked me out. I quickly realized the story that my dad told me about making those difficult decisions when you're in those types of positions. 4.5 years later, I made that difficult decision once again. I called my father and my mom to tell them that I didn't want to be in dentistry school anymore and that I was dropping out. Of course, just like any parent, they were very upset. Me as well. I started thinking, what are people going to think? What is society going to think? I came out here and I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Am I a failure? Is everybody going to call me a failure? Anyways, we continued. I came back home. It was a stressful time for me. It took me some time to get my foundation and decide what I'm going to do in life. But along the way, there were so many individuals that always helped me. They put their hand out and helped me make those difficult decisions so I could reach my full potential. Years later, I ran for city council in 2018. Unfortunately, I fell short of a few hundred votes. But even then, there was a difficult decision I had to make. Do I continue along this path, or do I try to find another? I continued along that path, and I was successful. That is because we were resilient, kept working hard, and there were great people to do so. My dad was also given his highest honor when he was named the Chancellor of the University of the Fraser Valley. The same gentleman that had to cut his hair, tied his turban up, and was then sworn in as the Chancellor of the University of the Fraser Valley. It was a proud moment for the Sidhu family. All those difficult decisions had finally started to pay off. So the moral of the story for me is never give up, work hard, and everything is possible.